Welcome to Survive and Advance on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. Survive and Advance is brought to you by Replenishing Care Technologies, the future of sports medicine. To find out more about them, go to thegruelingtruth.net, click on the banner. I'm your co-host for Survive and Advance, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host, 1981 national champion, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Mike, how you doing this wonderful Monday morning? And it is a wonderful Monday morning. I wake up this morning, I turn on my television, the first thing I see is NASCAR racing from Indianapolis. The Xfinity race is going on right now as I'm sitting here watching it as we're talking. We got Tiger Woods tearing it up out in Boston for the final round of the BMW Classic to determine the top 30 golfers. And at 11 o'clock today, we got the classic Brickyard 400, one of the top three most prestigious events on NASCAR. I mean, we need Mondays like this more often, and we get to start the show and spend most of the time on the show talking about opening week of NFL football. What could be a better Monday?
And
this is not a manic Monday.
And we're going to open it up with Aaron Rodgers, of course. Last night, down 20-0, comes back, 24-23 win. Of course, he got hurt, knee injury in the first half. Comes back in the second half. For the game, he was 20 for 30, 286 yards, 3 touchdowns. Almost all that damage was done in the second half. But my question is this. Rodgers seemed to limp a lot as that game went on. Is that one game worth risking Aaron Rodgers when you don't know what's wrong with him? Because to me, Steve, when they interviewed him after the game, I think he was pretty, jacked up on painkillers.
Mike, should I take it you didn't care about all the other sporting events that were happening today before we get to football?
Yeah, you can take it that way.
Okay, good, very good. Aaron Rodgers, well, as the church lady said on Saturday Night Live, well, isn't that special? And he definitely is a special football player to do what he did last night. The question is how severe is the injury? And that's the $10 question. Obviously, I think they know what kind of an investment Aaron Rodgers is to that franchise and what he is to the success and failure of that team. And I don't think that the powers would put him in a position to win. As we both know, a first game of the season is really not that relevant. It takes 5 or 6 games into the season to kind of determine what direction your team's going to be heading. So I have to believe they went back and I'm sure they did an MRI. Sure looked at it and found no immediate structural damage. It did seem that he was noticeably more pronounced in his limp and his favoring of the leg as the game went on. In terms of what kind of painkillers he was injected at that point in time or what kind of adrenaline he was playing on. But that's the question that will be answered today with him, because if the Packers lose Rodgers, the Packers lose. I mean, it's as simple as that. You know that they're done. You know that better than I do. So it's a gamble. It's always a gamble when you got a player of that caliber. You put him out back in the field injured. But he certainly lived up to the Aaron Rodgers moniker. I mean, he definitely brought that team back and rallied his second half comeback that for against the Bears team that I don't think that played that bad of a second half. They kind of faltered offensively. But I tell you what, the Bears are going to be a defensive force to be reckoned with. This Matt kid, that dude's a player. I'm not sure Oakland should have given him up.
I think there's no doubt Oakland shouldn't have gave him up. I think John Gruden, in the end, it could cost him his job, especially if they come out and get destroyed tonight, especially their defense. And I know Oakland's defense was not that good with him, but he was the only thing they had. And when you have him, you at least have somebody to build around for the future. Right now, they've got to find somebody to build around for the future. So that sets you back another year or two. I know they get a couple first-round picks, but I think it's a huge risk. My biggest problem with the Bears last night was they're up 20-17. They've got the ball to 20, 3rd and 1, and for some reason they throw the ball. And you got a guy like Jordan Howard in the backfield. I don't know why you wouldn't give him the ball. And on top of that, and I may be crazy for saying this, but with Aaron Rodgers on the other side of the field at 4th and 1, up by 3, I'm probably going to go for it. And I'm going to run Jordan Howard there because you have a chance. If you get that first down, you win the game. And we all know even if you kick the field goal, you're giving Aaron Rodgers the ball with more than 2 minutes left. Chances are he's going to come down and beat you.
Yeah, I don't understand that call either. Why would you put the ball in the air on a 1-yard pass? When the critical thing is take time off the clock. You can't get the first down. Keep the clock moving. I think at that time, wasn't Green Bay down to maybe like 1 or 2 timeouts?
I think they may have had none even, but still, with more than 2
Yeah,
minutes.
none. It doesn't. Play calling continues to amaze me for the amount of money these coaches get paid, offensive coordinators and head coaches that make these play calls. I mean, gee, many Christmas. If you got an offensive line that doesn't have enough pride to fire off for one play and get you 1 yard, to know that's going to win a major game, be a major victory, one of the biggest victories for the Bears in the last 4 or 5 years, and they don't have enough confidence to do it. It doesn't say a lot about your franchise, about your coaching staff. And then the other play in that game that just befuddles me to no end, the defensive back who Rodgers threw the ball right into his hands.
Yeah, and he
the
drops
guy
the
drops
ball.
it.
To me, I'm a Bengals fan. I've seen that before. I've seen this before. I'm a Bengals fan, and I watched Lewis Billups drop an interception in the end zone against Joe Montana. And when you do that against a guy like Aaron Rodgers or Joe Montana or Tom Brady, invariably you're going to lose the game because of dropping that.
Yeah, I told my wife right there when that happened. I mean, the ball could not have been put into his arms, cradled it in. I don't even know how he could have missed that ball. I mean, there was nobody within 5 yards of him. I don't know where Rodgers was throwing the ball to, other than the defensive back. But I told you right there, I said, that's the game. So they just gave Rodgers the game right there by not getting that, because that seals the game because they're out of timeouts. Again, they've got possession. They run the clock out, and the Bears win the game. So the good news is, what we're all waiting to see is how bad Aaron Rodgers' situation is. He came out after the game and said he's definitely playing next week. Of course, any athlete would say
and next week they play one of the best pass rushes in the NFL. They got to play the Minnesota Vikings.
Exactly. And where's that game at? Is that at Minnesota? Do we even know yet?
No, it's in Green Bay, but it doesn't matter.
It's in Green Bay.
If you watch Brian Beluga or whatever his name get ate up by that Bears defense, and I still think this, I think the Bears are a team that could win 7 or 8 games, and if they got quality quarterback play, they could be a playoff team. But I don't think Mitch Trubisky's that guy. He looked like it in the first half, but in the second half, he did not play well. The play calling at the end of the game mystified me with 2 timeouts left, about a minute and 43, and they're trying to throw the ball outside of the hash marks when they could have thrown the ball down the middle of the field. They had 2 timeouts left, and all they needed was a field goal.
Yeah. I took away more positives for the Bears than negatives. So, I mean, the drop, the interception, that's just, I mean, what are you going to do about that? I mean, that's not coachable to any great degree. He just blew it. I mean, that happens. We've all done that before. We missed a 2-foot putt that should have been a gimme. We've all swung at a pitch we shouldn't have swung at, that we knew it before we swung at it. So it just nothing you can do there. Offensively, the Bears just vanished in the second half. That hurt them. But defensively, it looked to me like the Bears are going to be one of the stronger defensive teams. This Matt kid, I had not heard much about him, and I'm even out here on the West Coast, and this kid's a player. This kid's going to affect changing games all season long for teams, and maybe a force you're going to have to alter your offense to work around this kid. So, again, I questioned what Oakland was thinking. I know they got a boatload for him, a couple first-round picks, but still, when you get a defensive player of that caliber in the league this day and age, like you said, I think you build around him and you build your defense. You take that mess out of the league, especially given the fact that Gruden thinks he's an offensive-minded coach. So, interesting concept. But, typical Aaron Rodgers. Packers come back, win the game in dramatic fashion. Aaron's one of the few guys in the NFL that can pull that off on a routine basis now, and good for him. Saw Danica Patrick was up in the stands cheering him on. That can't be too bad either for some post-game dinner and hijinks. So it was a good day.
All right. Also, we had Andrew Luck return.
I had to tie it back to auto racing.
We had Andrew Luck return for the first time in a couple years, and he looked good yesterday except for an early interception. He was 39 for 53, 319 yards, 2 touchdowns. And it'll tell you how important a quarterback is, because I think this Colts team could win some games just because they've got Andrew Luck. They blew a 23-10 lead to the Bengals yesterday. What was your take on Luck? I know you're a Colts fan.
No, I thought he played very well. He exceeded my expectations of what to expect back from him, given the fact of what we know about that football team not being very strong in any one position. Their running game is virtually non-existent. I think combined they ran for 48, 49 yards total. And when you force any quarterback in the NFL to throw the ball 53 times, you create more opportunity for bad things to happen. And I thought Andrew managed that very well, only throwing one pick. And really, come down to it, if Doyle makes the catch or doesn't fumble the ball inside of 2 minutes, he's got the ball in the red zone at that point in time, and Luck's firing on all cylinders right there and moving that team down the field. And unfortunately, Doyle catches the ball, advances 4 or 5 yards, and then fumbles, and that ends the game. I thought the Colts had a legitimate chance to win that football game at that point in time. The score is not as indicative as how that game was played. I'm not sure either one of those two teams are going to end up in the Super Bowl. But, I didn't think Dalton played badly either. I thought Dalton had a good game. Green, he teamed up with Green very well. But Luck's problem this year is just going to be, I just don't think he has the weaponry he needs to validate his arm this year. And the $10 question with Luck is going to be keeping him healthy. If you're going to be dropping back 53 times to throw, you're throwing yourself out there for sacks, hits, blind sides. Costanzo wasn't in the game. His left side protection is not solid. How soon before he spooks and starts running again? This is not a good situation for Andrew Luck to be in right now. And the Colts really need to be making some moves to bolster that offensive line and bolster a running game. And they've got to be able to stop the run.
Yeah, and I think the difference in the game is this. The difference is Dalton, 21 for 28, didn't have to throw the ball 57 times because he had Joe Mixon with 17 carries, 95 yards.
Right.
Also hit him for another 54 yards on 5 receptions out of the backfield. But the thing that stuck out to me was, number one, the way the quarterbacks were protected. Andrew Luck takes a shot to the head. They kicked the guy out of the game for it, Sean Williams, starting safety for the Bengals early on in the game. But the thing that stood out to me is this. I don't have a problem with the penalty on that because he hit him in the head. I have a problem with the ejection because I don't think it was malicious. I know he dropped his head, but it's not like he had a running start. I mean, he was going to tackle a ball carrier. So you got to pull up. But my biggest problem is the fact that the penalty is a severe enough shot to the head that you're going to make Sean Williams come out of the game, but you're not going to check Andrew Luck under any kind of concussion protocol to make sure he's all right, and that makes no sense to me.
That's an excellent point, Mike. I mean, we talked about that a little bit in pre-production, and I think that's an observation I had not thought of. But how in the world can you let a guy take a hit like that to the point where, like you said, you throw a guy out of the game for that hit, and you don't go over and make the quarterback or the player that received the blow go through concussion protocol real quick? I think that's a misstep in the process for this by the NFL. And I think I hope we're not the only ones to bring attention to that, but certainly you're going to need to revisit that right away. And if that hit is that dramatic that you got to throw a player out of the game, then and it's not a penalty. I don't want to call it a penalty to the Colts for having to take Luck out. I'm just calling it a safety feature that if the referees warrant that he got hit that hard, that, we need to go check him for concussion because it could pop up in the next 2 or 3 plays. That's a great point on your part, bro. What do you think? I mean, you think it's something that they would review and revisit, or you think it's okay?
They're supposed to have somebody up top that reviews anybody that gets hit in the head, takes them off the field, and does that. They don't do it here, and we all know why they didn't do it here. It's Andrew Luck. It's the Colts. They're driving. It's a big game. They're going to let it go. If that would have happened to a Colts running back, they probably pull him out and check him right away. So I just think that if we're going to play the game differently to what we used to, which is, any little thing we're penalizing for safety of players, why is it that we don't actually worry about the safety of players? To me, this looks like something, again, where they're just paying lip service to something instead of actually, they're just putting lipstick on a pig again. They're going to penalize you for doing it, but we're not going to check the guy that got knocked or got hit in the head.
I agree entirely. I think that they got caught with their pants down on this one because, it was a tough blow. I mean, whether it was intentional or not, it didn't seem to me that he was headhunting the Luck. I think he just dove in low. He came in. It's a natural instinct to put your head down. It's always a natural instinct to do that. That's one of the hardest things to teach in all of football is heads up. Keep your head up. And you know that. You're a coach, and you're a line coach. You know how hard that is to do. And a quarterback's coach. So from both ends, you understand the severity of that. But it wasn't a cheap shot in any way, shape, or form. It was just a good, hard hit that broke the rules that they've been established. The thing that stood out to me yesterday in all the games that I watched, and I spent most of my day watching Red Zone so I could kind of keep an eye on all the games, was we're getting a little overprotective of the quarterbacks now. I mean, it's just getting a little silly. There were so many questionable late hits on quarterbacks, hitting after the ball's been released. I mean, is there a paint circle around the quarterback that once the ball's released, you can't come to here? I mean, sometimes it's just unavoidable. You got a guy coming at you, 270-pound guy coming at you full steam, and he's on a bead for you, and you've got a quick release, and you fire it off, and that momentum is just not easy to change or stop. And half the time, they get blocked into him, too. And I just thought it's just getting a little silly on protecting the quarterbacks. I looked at my wife when we were watching, and what they ought to do is just put flags on the quarterbacks and just say when you pull their flag, they're down. And you can't touch a quarterback, period. But to me, it's just the whole thing. Football's a contact sport. It's another position on the field. It's a critical position, no doubt. But it just seems to me we're getting a little overprotective of the quarterbacks and taking a lot of fun out of the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then we will go to the Buffalo Bills at the Baltimore Ravens. Number one, who do you think the Bills will take with the first pick of the draft next year? And number two, Nathan Peterman played much better yesterday. He only threw 2 picks. His last game out, he threw 5. But he was 5 for 18, 24 yards. They replaced him in the third quarter with Josh Allen. The Buffalo Bills are an atrocious football team. They got rid of Tyrod Taylor, who's not a great quarterback, but he would have been the perfect guy to mentor Josh Allen, just like I think he's the perfect guy to mentor Baker Mayfield. And when I look at this, I just don't know what the Bills are going to do here, because you don't want to put Josh Allen behind a rookie line with no wide receivers. They've got LaShawn McCoy, but the problem is, as the Ravens showed yesterday, they're just going to put everybody in the box and take that away. And when you look at it, they got Zay Jones, Jason Kroom, Kelvin Benjamin. There's no weapons here.
Well, first of all, let me go back to when we get talking about Cleveland and Pittsburgh. We'll talk about maybe on Cleveland's team who should be mentoring who at the quarterback position. We may want to flip that through around. But, I think this is a point in time where you throw Josh Allen in there and, you simplify your offense to try and protect him and not overcomplicate things for him and get him experience and playing time and then start building around him. But they're going to go nowhere with Peterman, to the point where that team will just become disillusioned and unhappy. And the good thing for us is at least the Colts won't be considered the worst team in the league anymore. We should have proved our work. We moved up at least to the 31st spot, and not down at 32 the way Buffalo played. But, that's a team that was a playoff team last year. It seems to have done a fantastic job of absolutely dismantling themselves over the course of the summer. I think you put Josh Allen in there. And like I said, simplify your offense. Dummy it down to where it's just plays that he can control, he can run, keep him safe. Don't give him any situations to put himself into where he's going to get stuck out there for a cheap shot or a blindside hit. Run your offense with short hits and things like that, and just try and survive until you can build around him and get him some protection and some other offensive weapons on the field for him.
All right, moving on, we'll talk about 2 quarterbacks that were really good yesterday. Drew Brees was 37 for 45, 439 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and he lost. And he lost to Ryan Fitzpatrick, who over the last decade has played almost every team in the NFL. Fitzpatrick was 21 for 28, 417 yards, 4 touchdowns. Beats the Saints not at home. They beat them at New Orleans 48-40. And when you look at this, my question is, how expendable is Jameis Winston now?
Well, you said this many times about Ryan Fitzpatrick. When he's good, he's great. When he's not, he's a journeyman. The reason why he's played for pretty much every team in the NFL at some point in time. I mean, I don't think he's somebody that you can rely on that's going to play that way every week. And it was certainly a fun game to watch this. I admire Fitzpatrick for hanging around as long as he has, being 15 years in the league, still an old school quarterback, and had probably the best career day he's had as a pro yesterday. And it was very fun to watch. That game was on Red Zone quite a bit. obviously when you're putting up that many points, 88 points in a game, you're going to see a lot of red zone coverage of them. And Drew Brees is always exciting. Drew still probably is one of the 2 or 3 most premier eminent quarterbacks in the NFL, even at his age too. But the thing with Ryan Fitzpatrick is he was great today. What's he going to give you next week? Is that going to sustain to any degree? But in terms of Jameis, I don't think he's the answer, regardless of Fitzpatrick or not. I mean, they've got a lot of money wrapped up into him. They've got a lot of money wrapped up community-wise into him in terms of promoting him as the face of the Buccaneers, and he continues to let that franchise down with suspensions, with ill-advised off-field antics. And I don't think it's the image that the teams, the NFL really wants. And you give that kid so many chances and he continues to fail. And basically he's just proven he just does not have any leadership in him whatsoever. So I would, right now, I'd ride with Fitzpatrick as long as I could, but knowing full well that Fitzpatrick's capable of, having a Ryan Fitzpatrick mediocre day as well as he is having a Ryan Fitzpatrick outstanding day as well.
Yeah, but at least you don't get a Ryan Fitzpatrick just got arrested day. Next up.
Exactly.
Next up, we got the New England Patriots. And last year, the question was the defense was bad. The offensive line wasn't very good. So I think they had a lot of questions to answer playing in Houston, Texas, Deshaun Watson and that great defense. And I think, once again, it was answered. Tom Brady still looks like he's 29 years old, 26 for 39, 277 yards, 3 touchdowns. Rex Burkhead led him, 18 carries, 64 yards. Combined with Jeremy Hill, James White, they rushed for over 100 yards. And then you throw in Rob Gronkowski, 7 receptions, 123 yards. Philip Dorsett, who a lot of people thought was a bust. I know he was the Colts' #1 pick. 7 catches, 66 yards. So I think we learned 2 things. I think we learned that Houston Texans are going to be a team that people are going to have to deal with. But I also think we've learned that the best team in the AFC is still New England.
No doubt. And there's only 2 words I can add to what you just said, and it's just 2 words I'm going to add are Bill Belichick. I mean, he still is the best coach by far in the NFL. And, he's a magician at just taking what he has to work with and molding it into a championship caliber football team. And, New England changes personnel as often as anybody in the NFL. Yet when they do it, they always seem to come right back up on top. New England looked steady. They looked sharp. They looked not flamboyant, not Green Bay Packers style, not New Orleans Saints style. They looked New England style. Just methodical in your face. We're not going to make mistakes. We're not going to give you the game. You're going to have to take it from us. And you probably don't have a good enough coach to take it from us. So I think that as much as there seems to be the ballyhoo dislike between Belichick and Brady, the one thing I give those guys credit for is when they step in between the lines of the field, those 2 guys work together and click and form a common goal, and that's to win football games. And they get everybody involved. I mean, the dispersity of the offense that they showed yesterday, Gronk having a big game, the running game, putting up big numbers as a team. I agree right now. I still say right now New England is the team from the AFC that is most likely going to end up back in the Super Bowl yet again. Brady looks sharp. New England's New England.
All right, next up, we had the San Francisco 49ers, who have high hopes this season with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. Traveled to Minnesota to play the Vikings. The Vikings win the game 24-16. The thing I would be worried about of the Vikings is all the turnovers that they got, and they still had trouble winning this game. Kirk Cousins was solid, 20 for 36, 244 yards, 2 touchdowns. Latavius Murray, Dalvin Cook combined for close to 100 yards on 27 carries. I think the story of this game is the 49ers' defense is what kept them in the game. Jimmy Garoppolo was 15 for 33, 261 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. One of them wasn't his fault, but he did not play well. And I think, you get all these people calling him Jimmy G and all this, but I think people fail to realize that last year, when he started those 5 games and won those 5 games, he was 7 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and he threw for like 230 yards a game. So my question is this. Jimmy Garoppolo, to me, is going to be a good quarterback, but I don't think they have the weapons around him to be a playoff team this year, especially losing Jerick McKinnon. You got Matt Breida and Alfred Morris, who are decent running backs. But when you look at the wide receivers, their #1 receiver was George Kittle, 5 receptions, 90 yards. You got Dante Pettis, 2 catches, 61 yards. He's out of Washington, one of the fastest guys in the draft. I don't know why they're getting the ball to him more. So when I look at this, what I take away from it is Minnesota defensively is really good. If Kirk Cousins just takes care of the ball, the Vikings, I think, will win the NFC North. The 49ers, on the other hand, I still think are at least a year away, and they need more pieces to this puzzle.
Yeah, in terms of Jimmy Garoppolo, you have to remember he's only, 7, 8 games into his career?
Yeah.
He started, the last 6 games. So he's a rookie. I mean, and I think he's entitled to one mediocre game every now and then. The thing you said was really good for the 49ers. They look very solid defensively. And if they can, put that on their plate and not have to deal with that to a great degree, know that they can hold themselves in games defensively and let Garoppolo try to continue to develop. I mean, we knew that what happened at the end of last year was not going to carry on 100% all the way through the rest of his career. He was going to kind of come down to earth a little bit, and the time off during the season certainly maybe showed that in the first game. But I don't think that Garoppolo played that badly. I think his stats probably weren't indicative of, I thought, how he managed the game to a great degree. I think he's going up against an incredibly good defense who probably is taking a lot of things away from him. Maybe the best defensive team he's faced all season is in his days as a starting quarterback. And, I wasn't that unimpressed with Garoppolo. I think we're all just still in this honeymoon love affair with him based on what he did the last 6 games. So defensively, I thought San Francisco looked good. I do agree they need to bring some more weapons on board. They need to learn to utilize them, but maybe that's teaching Garoppolo how to, read defenses better and to get a better understanding of checking off and going to different players. But I still think the 49ers are a solid package. Maybe this isn't their year, but I think in a couple of years, they're going to be somebody that's a team that's going to have to be dealt with and reckoned with as Garoppolo continues to mature, they continue to build, and if they can keep their defense strong and solid. Minnesota, I agree, they're one of the top 2 or 3 tier teams in the NFC right now. I think that Kirk Cousins is in a good environment, good place. With a defense like that, there's not going to be a lot of pressure on him to put big numbers on the board. Like you said, just don't turn the ball over, keep it under control, and manage the playing clock and move the chains. Basically, what Cousins has got to do, and he seems to have always been pretty good doing that, even when he was at Washington. So I liked both teams. That was a good game. I got positives out of both those teams.
All right, next up. The Miami Dolphins and the Tennessee Titans started at 1 o'clock yesterday, ended at 8 o'clock last night. And this was a game that was 27-20. It was 10-3 into the fourth quarter. 34 points were put up in the fourth quarter. Ryan Tannehill, 20 for 28, 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, which has to be worrisome. Frank Gore and Kenyon Drake combined for over 100 yards rushing. Kenny Steele, 106 yards, 4 receptions. When you look at the Titans, the worry here has to be Marcus Mariota went out of the game with an injury. He was replaced by Blaine Gabbert. And Dion Lewis played well, 16 carries, 75 yards. When I look at this game, this is 2 teams that I think are going to end up at about 5 or 6 wins, and that's it, especially for the Titans if Mariota's not able to play, because I think it's been established Blaine Gabbert's not an NFL quality starting quarterback. What was your take on this one?
Yeah, same thing. I've never been impressed with Tannehill as a quarterback. I remember following him from when he started as a rookie on Hard Knocks and followed him ever since then because of that. And I think he's, oft injured. I don't think that Tannehill will make it through an entire season. Therefore, you can't really count on him. The Dolphins just seem to flounder. Nothing really good comes out of it. They don't impress me as a great defensive team. Tennessee continues just to be an enigma. They seem to have a lot more talent than they get out of their talent. Now losing Mariota, I think, puts them at a notch equal to or maybe even below the Colts in the AFC South, where I think that probably Houston's going to end up being the team. Houston and Jacksonville are going to battle that one out. But, I agree with you. Neither team impressed me very much. Maybe it was the duration of the game kept going on, dragging on. I know it's hard to stay up for a game when you're spending 30, 40 minutes in the locker room every 30 or 40 minutes waiting for lightning to strike. But I wasn't impressed with either team. I didn't see anything special from anybody. I'm not that impressed with Tannehill. I'm not that impressed with Mariota either. I don't think either one of them are teams quarterbacks are going to lead their team to the Super Bowl.
Mariota to me looks like he looked 2 years ago still. He doesn't look like he's really progressed.
No, exactly. Yeah, he looks the same.
But then we have the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on Saquon Barkley and the New York Giants. Everybody wanted to see Barkley, who I still think should have been the number one pick player in the draft. Blake Bortles, 18 for 33, 176 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, leads the Jaguars to a 20-15 win over the Giants. These are two teams that I think have a chance to be good this year. The Jaguars, my question is Blake Bortles good enough to get him over the hump? On the other side, the Giants, Saquon Barkley, 18 carries, 106 yards against a really good Jacksonville defense. Odell Beckham, 11 receptions, 111 yards. I think both of these teams are threats, and this might seem crazy, but I think the Giants might be the bigger threat in the long run just because they've got Eli Manning. And I know everybody's saying Eli Manning proved that he's old again. He didn't. This was a good defense. His offensive line is slowly getting better, but I think this Giants team is a team with Saquon Barkley, Odell Beckham, Sterling Shepard. They're only going to improve as this season goes on.
New York is a team to me that I'm a big Giants fan. I've always been a Manning fan, so therefore I like Peyton, I like Eli, but New York is a team that always starts off so slowly every season that they dig themselves in a hole, and in the second half of the season they start to come on, but sometimes they're just so far deep in a hole they can't climb themselves out of it in time to make the playoffs. And I hope that they're not heading back that way again. This team has a lot of talent. New York has a tremendous amount of talent. Saquon Barkley lived up to his billing. Guy's a hard runner. He'll come at you. He runs hard. I don't know what his offensive line is going to be like and how well he's going to last all season long. Manning's more than adequate. I just don't. There's something about him that maybe it's the fact that he plays so emotionless in the game, and they've got so many characters on that football team. And Beckham and those guys, that I just don't know if he's a good fit for that team. I don't question he's a great quarterback and certainly a Hall of Famer down the road, but I just don't know that he's a good fit for the personality and makeup of that football team. I don't know if that's what's dragging him down or not, but I thought that the Giants, I picked the Giants to win that game, actually. I thought they're playing at home. They got Odell Beckham back. Barkley's going to go nuts first game out. Manning, has got a lot of weaponry, be reliable, and they just didn't seem to get it past third gear the whole game. And Jacksonville is one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the AFC. I think if anybody's going to give New England a run, you got to look at Jacksonville. I think the Bortles is adequate. Bortles doesn't make a lot of bad mistakes.
Adequate's not going to beat the Patriots in the playoffs, so.
Probably not, because you're probably going to be playing in New England. So I give you that, but I'm not sure anybody's going to beat New England in the playoffs. But I think that Jacksonville and probably Houston are 2 of the teams that have the best opportunity to give them a run. But I like Jacksonville's football team. I thought they built that team the right way. They built it up through acquisition and putting players into place and sticking with them. And I thought it was a fun game to watch. I enjoyed the game at all, and that game could have gone either way. A couple breaks here or there, and certainly New York kept themselves in the hunt the whole game, despite what I'd call lackluster performance by Manning. But they were in the game and had a chance to win it at the end. So, yeah, I think they're both teams that you'll hear more about later on as the season goes on. Jacksonville for sure, because I don't think the AFC is as strong as the NFC. But as long as New York keep everybody healthy, I think that they're going to make some noise in the NFC East.
All right, next up, the Pittsburgh Steelers had a 21-7 lead going into the fourth quarter over the Cleveland Browns. The Browns come back, tie the game, goes to overtime. The game ends up in a tie. Games should not end up in a tie in the NFL. But would you look at the stats of this game? Ben Roethlisberger threw for 335 yards. James Conner ran for 135 yards. Juju Smith-Schuster caught for 119. Antonio Brown put up another 100. And when you look at the Browns, Tyrod Taylor, 15 for 40, 197 yards. Carlos Hyde ran 62 yards. You had Jarvis Landry had a great game, 7 receptions, 106 yards. when you look at this on the outside, the Pittsburgh Steelers, just looking at the stats, probably won this game by 3 touchdowns. So my question here is this. I think this shows maybe that the Cleveland Browns may be a tougher team than what they have been the last 2 years, that they could battle and stay in this game. But it also shows me that I think with Big Ben's age, the Le'Veon Bell situation, this Steelers team may not be as good as people thought they would be coming into this season.
Yeah, Roethlisberger did not look good. I mean, I just don't think he looked sharp. He didn't look crisp. He was all over the place with his throwing. 3 picks. Some of them not close. I just don't.
Hello?
Hello?
You there? I don't know what happened there. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Like I said, Roethlisberger just didn't look sharp. I didn't think the coaching was very sharp for Pittsburgh. I didn't think they were calling adequate plays. Pittsburgh just looked to me like they thought they had this game won. They were coming in and get a fairly easy win and walk away from Cleveland. And Cleveland is a team that, what do you think? You think the Cleveland fans take a tie as a victory?
Yeah.
How do you think they feel about it?
I think
you think they do?
When you're 1-31 over your last 32 games, you're probably all right with a tie, especially against Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh fans take it as a loss. And I think that tells you a lot about the two organizations and where they stand.
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh is peaked with the current configuration they've got. I think they're going to need to be making some changes to their organization. They better get Le'Veon Bell that decision rendered pretty quickly, or their season is going to go awash. Because you still have to give him 2 or 3 weeks to get back into playing condition before they stick him out there with any sensibility.
James Conner played a great game, and he's a great story, and he's a damn good football player, but he's not Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell changes a game.
Right. Yes, definitely, in all aspects of it. So, but here's the $10 question with this game. What do you do? What do you do now? Because Tyrod Taylor probably gave you about as good of an effort as he's going to be able to give you. I just don't see him as being much more, and he was effective yesterday. I mean, he ran the offense, he got him moving up down the field. But what do you think the mentality is here now? Do you stick with him and keep playing for ties?
What I think is this. I think if you've got Baker Mayfield, he is a spark. He's a uniter. And Tyrod Taylor it's the old game management thing. He comes in, he just plays the game. But I think this is a team in Cleveland that are close to being where they need to be to all of a sudden turn into a contender. I still think they need a new head coach. But I think a guy like Baker Mayfield would have made the difference in that game yesterday, good or bad. And in the end, if I'm Hugh Jackson and I want to keep my job, I'm going to ride with Baker Mayfield. And that's no shot at Tyrod Taylor because I think he's a very good quarterback. But I think he's also good and at a point where he could only get you so far. We don't know what Baker Mayfield is yet, so let's find out. Over the last 20 years, guys like Ben Roethlisberger, Andrew Luck, these guys have all been thrown into the fire. You don't learn the speed of an NFL game by standing on a sideline. You learn it by standing under center or back behind the center. And I think that he just needs to be put there and let him play and see what happens.
Yeah, and here's the thing there. Baker Mayfield is going to be the quarterback of the Cleveland Browns at some point. They did not sink that kind of money into him and make him the number 1 pick to let him sit behind Tyrod Taylor. Now, in the Hugh Jackson situation, here's the deal. You can either make that move yourself and be a hero for making the move, or you can let that move happen and it costs you your job because you didn't make that move. That move is going to happen. So from Hugh Jackson's point of view, I might be looking at it like, I better be the architect of this move if I want to keep my job.
Yeah,
because if the front office makes this move, the general manager
there anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. If Hugh Jackson lets the front office or the general manager make that decision to play Baker Mayfield, then Hugh Jackson's going with Tyrod Taylor. So that's something that, from a personal point of view, Hugh needs to be thinking about right now. Boy, I need to be the architect of getting Baker Mayfield on the field, because the fans are going to want it, because they may have been happy with a tie the first game, but they're not going to be happy with a tie again now. Now these fans have, tasted something other than defeat for the first time in, 31 games.
They tasted a tie.
And they tasted a tie. Well, hey, you take the tie. You take the tie. This week you take the tie. And it was against a highly reputable Pittsburgh team, too. While they may not be living up to the reputation right now, still Pittsburgh's considered an upper echelon AFC team, although they didn't show it. But if I was you, I would be working my way to get Baker into that lineup for some job security, as well as I think that the catalyst is that you're right, on field, I think Baker's going to make more things positive and negative. Negative being a rookie, being young, making rookie mistakes, but positive in the sense that I think that he's going to be a higher level of a catalyst than Tyrod Taylor is. Tyrod Taylor, like I said, I think gave you about as good as you're going to get from him every week. I don't think he's going to be a top 10 passer in the NFL. I don't think he's going to make terribly bad mistakes. But I don't think that he's going to start to take Browns to the next level. He's going to keep them just about where they are right now, which is a better football team than they were, but certainly not playoff caliber football team at this point in time.
All right, next up, the Kansas City Chiefs, led by Patrick Mahomes, 4 touchdown passes, beats the Los Angeles Chargers in LA 38-28. Tyreek Hill, 7 receptions, 169 yards, 2 touchdowns, kind of dominated the game. The Chargers, on the other hand, were led by Phillip Rivers, 34 for 51, 424 yards, 3 touchdowns. Melvin Gordon had an outstanding day, 9 receptions, 102 yards, carried the ball 15 times for 64 yards. The things that stand out to me here are this. Andy Reid's a really good football coach. I mean, he
is a good
Alex
coach.
Smith. Mahomes comes in. He almost never loses the first game of the season, just like he almost never loses coming out of the bye. And in the AFC West, which I think is wide open, Andy Reid, you could find his big butt in the playoffs again this year.
Oh, I think you will. I thought Kansas City looked sharp. I thought they looked good.
Hey, and the thing that stood out to me, Steve, when you watched that on the Red Zone, the place was nowhere near packed. It only seats like 28,000, and almost everybody there was wearing Kansas City red.
Yeah, I know. I did notice that because they actually are playing in a soccer stadium right now while they're building the San Diego's playing in a soccer stadium out here, which only holds 35,000 at most, and it wasn't full. And I did see an inordinate amount of red that was there. You're exactly right. I did catch that on the Red Zone, and but again, it's another sunny, beautiful 85-degree day in Los Angeles. Who wants to go watch pro football? But San Diego didn't look good. I mean, Phillip Rivers to me is an enigma because he puts up these.
You called him San Diego, Los Angeles.
Okay, Los Angeles. I'm sorry, I stand corrected.
I said the same thing at the start. So.
Yeah, I know. It's hard. Some things are just hard to get used to. They should have just stayed in San Diego. They'd been better off. Probably 3/4 of the fans at the game were San Diego fans anyway that drove up the interstate. Rivers is a guy who puts up humongous stats game in and game out, but doesn't seem to be able to win on a consistent basis. I mean, he had a big statistical day again yesterday, but they just didn't seem like they were things that were affecting the outcome of the game. It was just yardage and stats being put on a board. And I seem to just feel that way about him throughout most of his career. He's had his moments where he's had big wins, but consistently overall,
he put up
he's
28 points, though, Steve. It's not his fault that the defense gives up 38.
Yeah, but I didn't feel that he was going to be a contributing factor to the win. I don't know. It's a personal feeling. I just don't feel that they were influential points. They weren't significant points to quench a momentum to run by somebody else, to slow a defense, keep the defense on the field, wear him down a little bit. I don't know. I just didn't. I always never felt that way about Phillip Rivers. He's kind of like a Dan Marino to me. He's just a great statistical quarterback, but just doesn't have that ability to win championships in his repertoire. That's just how I feel about Phillip Rivers. That's the story, and I'm sticking to it.
Next up,
Kansas City, though, I thought Kansas City looked really good. They're probably the biggest surprise for me. And I actually picked the Chargers to win that game in my pool. So it shows what I know.
Yeah,
well, but I'm not picking against Kansas City again.
I picked the Chargers to get to the Super Bowl on the NFL Pick'em show. So, but it's only one game.
You
It doesn't mean that much.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Last year, I think both teams went to the
game.
Super Bowl. New England and Philadelphia lost their openers, so we can't read too much into it. Next up.
No, definitely not.
Jerry Jones's mess that he calls America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, get taken apart by the Carolina Panthers, 16-8. And Cam Newton, 17 for 26, 161 yards. Not a great game, but the thing that stood out to me is the fact that he made no mistakes that could have cost his team the game. On the other side, you could say the same thing about Dak Prescott, 19 for 29, 170 yards. My problem here with the Cowboys is defensively they're pretty good, but they don't have a number one wide receiver. And you've got Ezekiel Elliott, who's the best player on the field, and he only touched the ball 18 times total. He ran the ball 15 times. He's 15 carries, 69 yards. They get down to where they're only a touchdown down with like 5 or 6 minutes left in the game. And Ezekiel Elliott only touched the ball one time in the final 5 minutes. And I think Jerry Jones has destroyed this team from the day he fired Jimmy Johnson. He's continued to destroy this team. He's in the Hall of Fame because he makes NFL owners a lot of money. He's an asshole. And he looks for a guy to coach his team that is a yes man that will do what he's told, which is why Jason Garrett is still there, even though he hasn't done anything.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of love lost for the Cowboys. I mean, I don't favor them in any way, shape, or form. I think that there's no continuity on a football team. I don't think Garrett is really a good coach. He's not getting anything out of the talent that he has. Prescott didn't look impressive to me at all. Their whole offense looked anemic. They couldn't make big plays when they needed to. Defensively, they're okay. And I thought Carolina looked better than I thought they were. I was pleased that Cam Cameron played within himself. He didn't try and do too much. He stayed back in the pocket for the most part. Ran the offense smoothly, effectively, did not make a lot of mistakes, as you said. No interpicks, no interceptions. Carolina controlled the game all the way through. Dallas is looking at being a doormat out in the East because, Washington looked good yesterday. We think the Giants have a lot of talent. Philadelphia's there. Dallas is looking very closely at being the doormat of the NFC East right now and staying down there all season long.
Steve, do you realize that you called Cam Newton Cam Cameron?
See, I do that all the time.
I know you do.
I apologize.
You're a Hoosier because you're calling Cam Newton
Cam Cameron was played some basketball with Cam at IU. He was a quarterback's coach, a quarterback at IU, and he's still a quarterback's coach in the NFL, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so. He was an offensive coordinator.
Yeah, so my apologies on that. That's just a Freudian slip that I've made from day one because Cam's a distant friend of mine. I'm not saying we break bread together, but we knew each other from the day when we were both at IU. So my apologies to the world. Cam Newton.
Next up.
Thank you for calling me out on that.
You're welcome. Because I know there's somebody
I need to be
back there
coaching
saying, he said Cam Cameron.
Cam Cameron.
I
know.
Yes, for all those people out
there
did. Saying that, I did that for you. All right, next up, the Washington
go.
Redskins, 24-6 over the Arizona Cardinals. The thing that sticks out is Adrian Peterson, 26 carries, 96 yards, 2 receptions for 70 yards. The Redskin defense completely shut down David Johnson, who's one of the best running backs in the game, 9 carries, 37 yards. Larry Fitzgerald had 7 catches, 76 yards. So when you look at this, if Adrian Peterson can play like that all the time and as Redskin defense can play, they may have a shot to do something this year. Alex Smith was Alex Smith. He didn't make any big mistakes, and he just managed the game. I thought the Redskins were impressive. I know the Cardinals aren't a great team, but they do have one of the best running backs in the game, and they do have a solid defense, and the Redskins just took them apart.
Yeah, after week one, I might say Washington Redskins most improved team in the NFL. Alex Smith, 21 of 30, 255 yards, 2 TDs. I mean, that's typical Alex Smith football, though. He did that at Kansas City for a long period of time. He's a very solid NFL quarterback, a guy you want on your team if you don't have a Brady or a Luck or an Aaron Rodgers type player, a big play rate quarterback. The guy makes no mistakes. rarely, cost his team anything, and definitely directed and led that team. And I was very impressed with the Washington Redskins, and I think that they're going to make noise in the NFC this season. And Adrian Peterson, boy, what the Colts wouldn't give to pick a guy like that up, put him in the backfield with them, although I'm not sure he'd be able to do that with the Colts because I don't think the offensive line would never give him that opportunity to do that. But, good bully for Adrian Peterson to come back and play. And he looks strong. I mean, he had a couple 17-yard runs he cranked out. This wasn't just, pounding him in the ground and giving him 4 or 5 yards to carry. He picked up some critical first downs for the team, and he looked like he wanted the football, which I'm not sure many people his age in the NFL, wants football as often as they gave it to him. And I thought he balanced out the Skins offense. The defense looked good. I like the Washington Redskins. They to me right now, after week 1 watching, most improved team in the NFL right now.
All right, next up, the Denver Broncos proved that the Legion of Doom is now dead, beating the Seattle Seahawks 27-24. Case Keenum did throw 3 picks, but he also threw 3 touchdowns, 329 yards. Philip Lindsay rushed for 71. Royce Freeman, former Oregon star, rushed for 71. So they ran for almost 150 yards. They're right around 500 total yards. Emmanuel Sanders, 10 receptions, 135 yards. The Seattle Seahawks, to me, are kind of like the Indianapolis Colts right now. They really don't have a running game. They've got a great quarterback, Russell Wilson, 3 touchdowns yesterday. No real wide receiver threats. They got a few number 2 guys. So really when I look at this team, they're going to win some games just because they have Russell Wilson, just like I think the Colts will win some games because they've got Andrew Luck. But I think Pete Carroll may be on his last legs in Seattle.
Yeah, they're not going to get any better under their current configuration. Brandon Marshall probably has given about all he can give him at his age. But they're short on weaponry. Not a very strong defensive team. Denver, on the other hand, wins in typical Denver style. Everybody contributes to Denver's win. Defense plays good. Offense plays good. Everybody in Denver just plays good enough just to win the game, which has kind of been the moniker of the Denver Broncos all along. You don't always have a lot of, top-tier superstars on a Denver Bronco football team, but you seem to have guys, and Elway does a good job of creating and building a culture in that organization that everybody contributes to the win that steps on the field, and they all contribute equally, and they all find a common goal. And I think that's how Denver won the game yesterday. Nobody stood out. You're right, Case Keenum, 3 TDs, 3 picks. He did throw for 329 yards, 25 of 39. It's a good day, but that's a day that can get you beat when you throw 3 picks. That can get you beat just as easily as you can win games. So, but everybody else stepped up. I thought Denver's defense looked solid. And, they've got a strong fan base out there that keeps their players in the game. So, typical Denver win. That's how Denver will win all year. They'll be in the hunt all year. They'll not blow people out a lot, but I think they'll stay close, and they'll win a lot of the close games because this is a team that's not going to make a lot of costly mistakes on you.
All right. So let's go ahead and preview tonight. We've got 2 Monday night games to kick off Monday Night Football. We got the Jets at the Detroit Lions, and I think the big story here is at just the age of 21, rookie signal caller for the Jets, Sam Darnold, will become the youngest Week 1 starting quarterback in the modern era of the NFL. He won the job over veteran Josh McCown, who actually played really well last year until he got hurt. So the Jets obviously think he's ready. He's big, strong, can make all the throws, seems poised beyond his years. And he will face a Detroit defense led by Matt Patricia, that has guys like Ziggy Ansah who can get after the quarterback here. So I would expect that the Lions' front 7 is going to pressure him or try to pressure him to speed up his clock. And the question here is Sam Darnold ready for this tonight away in his first game, Steve?
Time will tell. He's gotten reviews of being a very technically sound quarterback, but you throw people in real-life game situations, and as you said earlier, with young quarterbacks, the way to learn is to throw them out there and learn the pace at game speed, and he has not really faced that yet. So time will tell. I think he'll struggle. I think that defensively, Detroit may be a little too strong for the Jets tonight. And Darnold we'll see. I mean, I don't have a lot of expectations for Darnold. First game, being that young, I'm sure he's nervous. The team's not really strong enough around him to carry him and support him as he's learned the ropes and getting acclimated to the game speed that's out there. So I don't have a lot of expectations for Darnold tonight. I think the key is not to make a lot of mistakes and get himself taken out of the game, direct what confidence that he has right now. Hopefully he just plays steady football, and he may surprise us. We don't know. We'll find out tonight. Having not seen him play in real game situations, it's really hard to make any determination as to what he's going to produce on the field. I don't have an answer for that.
So do you have an answer for who's going to win the game?
I think Detroit will. I think the defense will overcome. They've got what's called their new look defense. They were playing pretty vanilla during the preseason, and so they claim, and they're going to come out with some new schemes things. So I think over experience alone and the fact that Darnold is a rookie and a young rookie at that, I don't think he's going to be able to carry the Jets to the victory, and I think Detroit's just going to win by being just a little bit better defensive team than the Jets.
Well, I like the Lions also. They got LeGarrette Blount and Kerryon Johnson now in the backfield to run to help Matthew Stafford. And when it comes down to it, it's just too early to pick Sam Darnold to beat Matt Stafford. I actually kind of hope he does because I really like Sam Darnold. I do have questions about him, but when you look at it, I think the Lions win this game. I think it could be fairly high scoring. I think Darnold's going to make mistakes, throw a few picks, but I think he's also going to make a few plays that are going to turn into touchdowns to keep the game relatively close. But I would like the Lions like 27-17.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and I hope Darnold does. I mean, I want to see this kid succeed. So I hope he, like I said, I hope he doesn't make enough mistakes that they pull him or it wrecks his confidence to any degree. It's a tough situation to be thrown in to be a young quarterback and a starting quarterback first game, being the only of the first-round pick quarterbacks to be starting in the first game. So there's a lot of pressure on him. I do hope he succeeds. I agree with you, though. I think Detroit overall, the team, is going to be a little bit stronger, and they're going to prevail by a short margin. And you're right, Darnold will make some mistakes, but let's hope he does make some big plays too, and shows people that he is capable of playing at this level in this league for this team.
All right, and the second game tonight, the $100 million man, John Gruden, will lead the Oakland Raiders against the L.A. Rams and Sean McVay. This is a game that looks like a mismatch. The Rams went on the league's biggest shopping spree going after players. The Raiders went on the biggest shopping spree going after a coach, which is John Gruden. Now, if I'm a Raider fan, I'm wondering why we can give John Gruden $100 million, but we can't pay to keep Khalil Mack. But when you look at this team, I think this game's just a total mismatch. I know it's at Oakland. I know everybody's excited because it's John Gruden's first game. But let's face it, outside of the one Super Bowl win, what did John Gruden do at Tampa Bay after that? He did nothing. He made the playoffs like once or twice. Didn't win a playoff game. He's overhyped. He's overrated. And tonight, I think he's going to get his ass handed to him on Monday Night Football, Steve.
I agree. On paper, it should be not even a football game to watch, worth watching after the first half, most likely. But it's Oakland. It's first game hype. There's a lot of hype involved here. Gruden will get these guys fired up first time out, and then maybe they'll fall flat second game realizing he's not worth $100 million to that franchise. But I think emotion will be a big factor in this game. How confident the Rams will come into the game, how overconfident they'll come, because on paper the Rams this should not be a football game. It should be a wash. Rams are clearly a better football team, better coached. I think better coached, truthfully. But that's why they roll the ball on the field. I would predict the Rams in kind of a blowout would be my prediction for the game tonight.
All right, and you see CBS's CEO, Les Moonves, has stepped down too. 6 women came out and accused him of things, so there's another guy gone.
He got the same. He's getting the same $100 million that Gruden got, so good for him.
Well, he may not be getting it now. All right, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Do you have any other comments? Because tomorrow We're going to come back and we're going to recap the week of college football. We will also talk about the Serena Williams incident at the U.S. Open, and we'll talk about tonight's games. So now we're at a point, Steve, where we've actually got things to talk about every day. And I'm sure we'll have an update on Aaron Rodgers by then, too.
Yeah, we will, as well as we will have the final Ryder Cup pick for the Ryder Cup team, but we'll probably cover that more on our golf show, which will be broadcast on Wednesday with Lucas Weiss and myself. And we can cover the Brickyard 400, which is going to be run today, if you want to cover that tomorrow, too.
Yeah.
That's one of the largest auto racing events in the American Sports Auto Racing Network. Okay, I'm not getting a lot of love on that one either.
You need a NASCAR show. If we got a NASCAR show and a golf show, then we don't have to talk about it when normal sports fans are listening.
Mike, there are sports outside of football and basketball and baseball, despite what you think.
Boxing.
There are sports.
Hockey.
Boxing, yes,
I
and
like
boxing.
hockey, too.
And hockey.
There you
yes.
go. All right.
There are sports outside of all those as well. So.
Well. All right.
No, that's a good first week in the NFL. It's good to have the NFL back to watch. It was a fun day to watch football. I think you can't tell anything about a lot of things right now. You got to give it 3 or 4 games to see who's going to shake out. Some teams surprised me. Washington Redskins certainly surprised me. Kansas City surprised me. And some teams look like they're going to just be floundering mediocre. New England looks strong. And Philadelphia looked good, and we'll see what the Los Angeles Rams do, because I think those are probably 4 of the better teams in the league that are going to be contending for a Super Bowl berth, along with like Minnesota.
The only team that really solidified yesterday what I think of was the Buffalo Bills. They're terrible. Other than that,
they're terrible.
Week 1 doesn't mean much. I mean, week 1 and week 2 of your coach is just trying to figure out what you need to fix for the rest of the season. But the Buffalo Bills, there's so much stuff to fix there. You can stick a fork in them.
Yeah, and that's a playoff team from last year too. That's what amazes me, is that they can drop that quickly, that fast.
Yeah, but they lost.
I was happy for Cleveland.
They lost their quarterback.
Right.
They let him go. I mean, they basically got rid of him. Then you look at Preston Brown was their starting linebacker, leading tackler. Now he's a Cincinnati Bengal. I mean, they've lost weapons at wide receiver. They've lost weapons everywhere. And what did they add? They added Russell Bodine, who was the worst center in football. They've got Marshall Newhouse playing tackle, maybe the worst tackle in football. So, and I was never sold on their head coach anyways. So I think he'll be fired at the end of this season.
I was happy for Cleveland to get something other than a loss. I thought that Cleveland elevated themselves. Pittsburgh certainly was a tough team for them to open up with. I wonder, we're all going to play armchair quarterback and wonder how much better that team's going to be when they finally get Baker Mayfield in the lineup. And I don't want to take anything away from Tyrod Taylor. He did a good job. He played adequate football for them and kept them in the game the whole day, did not make a lot of bad mistakes. But I think for that team to win and to be able to go into a game so they have a chance to win, not just to hope for a tie, they're going to need Baker Mayfield on the field and behind center.
All right, Steve. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. And we want to remind people that Wednesday night is at 8 o'clock, Steve?
8 o'clock Wednesday night. Big event coming. For anybody who's still listening right now. Yes, we are going to have a preview.
Good.
Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, we will have our first season preview show of Indiana Basketball Weekly. We are pleased to announce to everybody that is still listening that Colin Hartman, graduating senior last year for the last 5 years at Indiana University through the Tom Crean era and transitioning into the Archie Miller era, has joined our staff and is going to be a co-analyst with myself and Mike on the Indiana Basketball Weekly program all year long. And we're going to get some great insight. You're going to see things from 2 different perspectives, from the old traditional Knight era and blossoming in and transitioning into the new modern era of Indiana basketball, which I'm not going to say one is any better than the other. They are different eras, and I think the fun of it's going to be to see how things were handled in Colin's era, things were handled in my era. Colin's going to bring great insight into the current crop of talent on the court, as he knows almost every one of the players. Was involved in recruiting some of them and playing alongside a lot of them, and spent a complete year with Archie Miller, and we'll get a lot better understanding from Colin about Archie's thought process in the games. And I think that's something a lot of other programs won't be able to bring to you. They'll bring speculation about how things are going in a huddle. I think what we're going to be able to provide to you is how things go in a huddle. Because we're going to hear it right from the horse's mouth from somebody who's been in the huddle with them and somebody who's been in the huddle of other great teams and other championship drives as well, too. So Wednesday night at 8 o'clock will be our first preview show. We'll take a look at the roster as it sits now. We'll take a look at the schedule as it sits now. And we also know that Archie Miller spent the day yesterday not watching NFL football, but out recruiting 4 or 5 five-star blue chip recruits that are based in Indiana, trying hard to keep Indiana talent in Indiana. And we'll get a little insight into that from Colin as well, too. So join us Wednesday. We'll set our schedule for the regular season. Once basketball practice starts, we'll be on weekly and post-game shows, depending on how many games they have each week. And we'll bring you a really good program on Indiana basketball all season long with Colin Hartman, myself, and Mike Goodpaster asking all the stupid questions that hosts ask.
All right. At least I won't talk about NASCAR Xfinity and all that stupid crap.
Season will be over by then. Season will be over.
Tomorrow night at 9:30, join me, Matt Andrews-Cabbage, Brian Schmidt, Lucas Weiss will be joining us, and former Carolina Panther player Tony Pike as we do the NFL Weekly Pick'em Show. Wednesday night at 9:30, we will have a CFL Pick'em Show with Robert Drummond, who starred on the undefeated Syracuse Orangemen team of 1988, and then went on to play for the Philadelphia Eagles, then played in the CFL, won 4 Grey Cups. Also this week, keep an eye out for our Inside Boxing Weekly Show previewing Gennady Golovkin's Titanic matchup against Canelo Alvarez in the rematch this Saturday night. We will probably have a couple shows leading up to that fight, so make sure you check us out there. You can follow us on Twitter at Grueling Truth, at Survive the Magic, or you can just search Survive in Advance. Remember to check out Replenishing Care and Technologies with their PMF machine and their CBD oil, which is actually in a pill form, and I highly recommend. You can find that on thegruelingtruth.net at the top of the page. So, for Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.